Welcome back to Reds Fusion LFC. Today we've got massive breaking news on the Alexander Isak to Liverpool saga. Twists, blocks, and drama you won't believe. If you love the Reds and don't want to miss any updates, make sure you smash that like button, drop your thoughts in the comments, and hit subscribe so you're always in the loop. Liverpool have already confirmed response to Newcastle's Alexander Isak transfer statement. Liverpool continue to be linked with a blockbuster transfer for Alexander Isak, but Newcastle remain adamant that they will not sell their star striker this summer. Alexander Isak's hopes of joining Liverpool this summer appear to be fading fast, with the Premier League champions unwilling to pursue any players they deem to be unattainable. The Reds have already seen a 9-figure offer for Isak rejected this summer. And with Newcastle adamant they will not sell the 25-year-old striker, Isak looks likely to be a Magpies player when the transfer window shuts on 1st September. It emerged on Saturday morning that the Sweden international has reacted furiously after being informed he will not be sold this summer. And while the report adds that Isak will not feature for Newcastle until he accepts the board will not sell him in this transfer window, Liverpool's recruitment policy means a breakthrough is unlikely. It was outlined prior to the weekend by the paper that the champions' requirements for any transfer target include them being realistically attainable and that any deal would represent fair market value. As things stand, neither of those requirements would be met with Isak, given Newcastle value their star striker in excess of $150 million and do not want to sell. Liverpool are expected to target a new no-9 after agreeing a deal to sell Darwin Núñez to Al Hilal. They have already signed Hugo Ekitike from Eintracht Frankfurt this summer, though the Frenchman is also capable of playing in a wide attacking role. Ekitike was a target for Newcastle before the Reds swooped in, and they continue to pursue forwards themselves. Brentford's Yoane Wissa is one such target. Isak did not feature in Newcastle's latest preseason fixtures and has now been instructed to train alone after failing to join his teammates on their recent tour of Asia. Speaking after the 2-2 draw with Espanyol on Friday night at St. James's Park, Eddie Howe said of the situation, "We've had discussions, and it's clear at the moment that we can't involve him with the group. I don't know how long that will be for, but that's the latest. I'd want Alex to be playing today. I'd want him training tomorrow. We would love the player to be with us. Let me make that absolutely clear. There's no part of me that doesn't want that outcome, but I don't see the current situation changing for Aston Villa Newcastle's season opener." Alexander Isak to Liverpool takes new twist as Newcastle United make transfer decision. Newcastle United have reportedly told Alexander Isak he is not going to join Liverpool this summer. Newcastle United are reportedly willing to keep Alexander Isak on the sidelines indefinitely rather than engage in the possibility of him joining Liverpool this summer. The Reds have made Isak their chief striker target and saw a $110 million bid for the player emphatically turned down by the Magpies earlier this month. Liverpool will not make a second offer unless Newcastle change their stance over not selling the player, which has remained steadfast since Isak first informed the club of his desire to leave earlier in the summer. And now the Telegraph has claimed Newcastle's Saudi Arabia owners have told Isak he will not be allowed to join Liverpool for any price during the current transfer window, despite having previously valued the player at nearer to $150 million. It is also suggested Newcastle will maintain that viewpoint even if they are successful in signing one or more forwards this summer. They have targeted Brentford's Yoane Wissa, but have missed out on RB Leipzig's Benjamin Sesko, who has opted to join Manchester United instead. The report is in contrast to comments from Eddie Howe made on Friday evening after Newcastle's 2-2 friendly draw with Espanyol at St. James's Park when he was asked if the club could force Isak to stay. "It's not that straightforward, otherwise we would have done that a long time ago," said Howe. "I don't think we're in a position to be able to do that currently. With Isak presently banished from Newcastle's first team squad, there would Now seemed the prospect of the Sweden international remaining out of action for a lengthy period, with the transfer window not closing until September 1st. Howe has already stated he doesn't expect the player to be reintegrated into the squad before next Saturday's Premier League opener against Aston Villa, with Isak also not likely to feature in Newcastle's first home game of the season the following week, against Liverpool. It is claimed Newcastle are not happy with the behavior of Isak, his representatives, or Liverpool over the transfer pursuit, and that player won't be selected for the Magpies again until he accepts the decision not to sell him to the Reds. That would leave Newcastle running the risk of being without their most prized asset and last season's leading scorer for an indefinite period. Liverpool remain keen on Isak, but for now are maintaining a watching brief as the situation at Newcastle becomes increasingly ugly with no immediate end in sight. Alexander Isak refuses to accept Newcastle owners' decision to block Liverpool transfer talks. Alexander Isak has been linked with a move to Anfield all summer, but Newcastle's Saudi Arabian owners have apparently put their foot down and told him he's going nowhere. Alexander Isak has reportedly been told he will not be granted permission to leave Newcastle United this summer and will not be allowed to join Liverpool, leaving him furious. The future of the Swedish forward has dominated the transfer agenda over recent weeks, with Isak omitted from the Newcastle squad for its summer preseason tour in Asia, and he has since been forced to train by himself since the group returned. Eddie Howe admitted on Friday, after Isak was again not involved in the friendly against Espanyol, that he does not expect the player to be available to face Aston Villa next week when the Premier League resumes. Meanwhile, the Telegraph now claims Newcastle's Saudi Arabian owners have taken a defiant stance against the 25-year-old's decision to try and engineer a move. The outlet claims Isak has refused to accept the decision with good grace, leading to acrimony and tension. The same report claims it's extremely unlikely that Newcastle will allow its star man to leave even if it signs a replacement. In the transfer market, while the situation is said to be testing Howe's patience, we've had discussions and it's clear at the moment we can't have him involved with the group, the Newcastle boss said on Friday. I don't know how long that will be for. It's clear I can't involve him with the team at the moment. He is training later than the rest of the squad. There have been discussions since the tour. I don't think disciplinary action has happened. He is here, so of course he has a future at Newcastle. From our perspective, we would love to have him back with the team, but the situation has to be right for that to happen. Despite that, the Telegraph claims Newcastle plans to reintegrate the player into the first-team group, and a new contract with a release clause will be negotiated in September when the transfer market closes. It's a remarkable update given Liverpool's interest in the player and his clear desire to depart. The Reds last week saw a $110 million, $148 million bid turned down for the ex-Real Sociedad man, and had hoped Newcastle's stance on not selling would thaw. The news comes as Liverpool prepares to bid farewell to Darwin Núñez. The striker is set to join Al Hilal after terms were agreed between the two clubs on Thursday. With Federico Chiesa also expected to depart, that will leave Liverpool with just 3 senior attackers in Mohamed Salah, Hugo Ekitike, and Cody Gakpo, although teenager Rion Gumoha will play a bigger role at first-team level this season. Alan Shearer told Newcastle to sell Alexander Isak before Liverpool move. Blocked Newcastle United have reportedly blocked Alexander Isak joining Liverpool despite Alan Shearer's advice. Alan Shearer declared that Newcastle should cash in on Alexander Isak if they could not turn his head, but even though the striker remains determined to join Liverpool, the club's decision-makers have now made clear to him that he is going absolutely nowhere. The Sweden international remains a target for the Reds and has been training alone, having played no part in pre-season. Newcastle have already knocked back a mammoth $120 million offer from Liverpool for their prized asset. Isak was notably absent from the Magpies' pre-season Asian tour, instead choosing to maintain his fitness at former club Real Sociedad. The 25-year-old has returned to Newcastle's Benton training facility, but was conspicuously missing from Friday's 2-2 stalemate against Espanyol. Premier League legend Shearer, speaking before Newcastle blocked a move, predicted the club's transfer market struggles could leave the striker stranded on Tyneside. The biggest thing they have to do is somehow sort the Isak situation out. And if they can't get anyone in, I guess that means he isn't going anywhere, Shearer told Betfair. Eddie will have to be at his persuasive best to try and turn Isak's head around because it has been turned in terms of him wanting to go to Liverpool. On the proviso that he does want to go and Eddie can't turn his head, then you get the money. But prior to that, you have to get people in to replace him. Newcastle missed out on Benjamin Sesko to Manchester United, having already lost out on Brian Mbeumo to the Red Devils. The Magpies were also denied Liam Delap and João Pedro by Chelsea, while Hugo Ekitike chose Liverpool over Eddie Howe's side. Despite these setbacks, Newcastle have managed to secure Anthony Elanga from Nottingham Forest and have welcomed goalkeeper Aaron Ramsdale on loan after James Trafford chose Manchester City instead. Shearer added, "Why can't Newcastle get business done? I don't know whether it's to do with the fact they don't have a chief executive or sporting director. They've known for months now that the chief executive was leaving, so I'm pretty surprised that one hasn't been announced as yet. The sporting director left a couple of months ago now, and they've known that. So that's a big surprise that those spaces haven't been filled. Whether that has anything to do with Newcastle's lack of business and the number of players that have said no to them, I don't know. It's not a good look." Discussing Isak's future, Howe said on Friday night, "We've had discussions, and it's clear at the moment we can't have him involved with the group. I don't know how long that will be for. It's clear I can't involve him with the team at the moment. He is training later than the rest of the squad. There have been discussions since the tour. I don't think disciplinary action has happened. He is here, so of course he has a future at Newcastle. From our perspective, we would love to have him back with the team, but the situation has to be right for that to happen." Arne Slot rejects Liverpool's big spending theory, with issue not being talked about enough. Liverpool have been one of the busiest clubs in the transfer market this summer, but Reds boss Arne Slot believes one area is being overlooked in assessing the club's work this summer. Arne Slot has pushed back on the attention Liverpool's big spending in the transfer market is receiving and instead highlighted the exits he has also had to deal with. The Reds have seen a great deal of turnover despite winning the Premier League in the Dutchman's first season in charge. Liverpool broke the British transfer record to land Florian Wirtz for up to $116 million, and the team's spending has breached 300 million, with the arrivals of Hugo Ekitike, Jeremy Frimpong, Milos Kerkez, and Georgi Mamardashvili. And the incoming business may not be complete, with speculation continuing over Alexander Isak's future at Newcastle. But Slot does not believe that tells the whole story as he deals with the departure of players who played significant roles in bringing a title to Anfield last season. The Merseyside club have been required to replace and rebuild rather than simply improving their team in recent months. What I feel is not being talked about enough, although you have to make your own decision when you talk about it, is that I've lost 4 players that have started regularly, said Slot. And one of them, his family lost him. That's Diogo. Then Darwin might be on the verge of leaving. Luis Diaz was a definite starter, and Trent Alexander-Arnold was a definite starter. So normally in the Premier League, teams only buy and never sell. We do both. We lost players in a good phase of their career. I'm used to that, and it sometimes gives new energy as well. Liverpool's boss has less than a week until the team's title defense begins against Bournemouth, and 3 weeks until the transfer window closes. The Reds continue to be linked to Isak, while a number of stars such as Harvey Elliott could still depart. As a result, Slot does not want to make any premature judgments on whether he has a better squad at his disposal than 12 months ago. The 46-year-old will only make that assessment once August is over. That is something I can only tell you at the 1st of September, because the window is still 3 weeks open. So I do feel that the players we've brought in have done already really well, as expected, because that's why we brought them in. But I cannot tell you now if these players are able to perform at the same level every 3 days. Therefore, we first have to start the season to see. And I did know that Luis Diaz was able to do that, and all the other ones were able to do that. So that is another challenge at the Premier League, because we play so many games.